Hey guys, and welcome back. Tonight, we journey to the golden world of ancient Egypt, a civilization of majestic pyramids, powerful pharaohs, and serene, elegant queens. We picture them as they are in the temple paintings, their eyes lined with kohl, their bodies draped in fine linen, their presence almost divine. But behind that serene facade was a daily reality, a reality of strange, messy, and, to our modern sensibilities, disgusting hygiene rituals. All performed in the sacred name of purity and beauty. You are not a queen. You are a handmaiden to the great royal wife, and you are about to prepare her for the gobs. So, before we grind the malachite for the queen's eyeshadow, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys into the past. As always, it is a pleasure to see where you are all listening from, so let me know in the comments. All right, dim the lights. Let the scent of lotus and myrrh fill the air, and let us step back in time. The first light of dawn over the Theban hills is not a harsh, demanding thing. It is a soft, pale, and gentle luminescence that slowly, quietly pushes back the deep, star-filled darkness of the desert night. It is this light, filtering through the single, high, slatted window of your chamber, that awakens you. You lie for a moment on your cool reed mat, your body wrapped in a simple sheet of clean white linen. Your chamber is not a grand, opulent room. It is a space of elegant simplicity. The walls are of smooth, cool mud brick, whitewashed and clean. The air is still and cool from the night, carrying the faint, earthy scent of the Nile and the distant, sweet perfume of the lotus flowers blooming in the palace gardens. You are a Kekeret Nesut, an ornament of the king. You are one of the high-ranking ladies of the court, chosen from a noble family to serve in the most intimate and most trusted position in the entire kingdom, as a handmaiden to the great royal wife, the consort of the living god, Pharaoh himself. Your life is one of immense privilege and of immense, unending pressure. Your first duty of the day is not to the queen, but to yourself. You must be pure before you can enter her sacred presence. Your own purification is a simple, private, and deeply ingrained ritual. You rise from your mat and walk to a small wooden stand in the corner of your room. Upon it sits a beautiful painted pottery bowl and a large earthenware jug filled with cool water that was drawn from the great river the evening before. You pour the water into the basin. It is cool, but not the shocking icy cold of a northern land. It is the soft, life-giving coolness of the Nile. You dip your hands into it and bring the water to your face. You wash away the sleep from your eyes, the dust from your skin. You then take a small piece of natron, a natural salt harvested from the dry lake beds of the desert, and you dissolve it in the water. You cup the salty, alkaline water in your hands and rinse your mouth. A cleansing ritual to purify your speech for the day to come. To clean your teeth, you take a small, frayed twig from a willow tree and rub it against your teeth and gums. It is a simple, effective, and ancient practice. This is your hygiene. It is quick. It is functional. It is a private moment of preparation. The ritual you are about to perform for your mistress, the queen, will be a different thing entirely. It will not be simple. It will be a long, complex, and laborious ceremony, requiring a half-dozen other maids, a host of sacred materials, and your own absolute, unwavering focus. As you dress yourself in your own simple, elegant sheath of fine, white linen, your mind is already a checklist of the day's great tasks. Today, the queen must attend the great festival of Hathor at the temple. She must appear before the people, not as a woman, but as a living goddess. And every detail of that divine appearance is your responsibility. The mixing of the kohl for her eyes, the preparation of the perfumed oils for her body, the selection and arrangement of her magnificent wig. A single mistake in any of these tasks, a smudge in the eye paint, an oil that is not perfectly fragrant, would be a sign of a dark omen, a flaw in the perfection of the divine. And it would be your failure. Your hands must be steady. Your mind must be clear. You are ready. You step out of your chamber and into the cool, open-air corridors of the palace. The sun is now rising in earnest, its golden light striking the tops of the great painted columns that line the walkways. The palace is coming to life. You see other servants, their movements quiet and purposeful. You see the flash of a guard's bronze spearhead. The air is filled with the scent of baking bread from the kitchens, and the sound of a priest's distant, chanting prayer. You walk with a quiet, dignified purpose, your bare feet silent on the polished stone floors. You are heading for the heart of the palace, for the most private and most sacred of all its spaces, the Queen's own apartments. You arrive at a pair of great, imposing doors of Lebanese cedar, inlaid with ivory and ebony. Two of the Queen's personal guards, formidable Nubian warriors, stand at attention. They see you and they nod, recognizing you as one of the chosen few who are permitted to enter. One of them gives a quiet, respectful knock on the door. A voice from within grants permission. The great cedar doors are swung open for you by a servant inside. You step across the threshold. The sounds of the waking palace fade behind you, replaced by a deep, perfumed, and almost holy silence. You have left the world of the living, and you have entered the sacred, secret, and deeply strange world of a living goddess. Your true workday has just begun. You step across the threshold, and the great cedar doors close behind you with a soft, final thud. The sounds of the waking palace, the distant chants and the shuffling of servants, are instantly cut off, replaced by a deep, profound, and almost sacred silence. You have entered the Queen's private apartments. You have entered another world. The air here is different. It is cool and still, a welcome relief from the growing heat of the Egyptian morning. And it is heavy with a complex and luxurious perfume. It is not the scent of a single flower, but a carefully curated atmosphere. You can smell the deep, sweet, and resinous aroma of the sacred kefi incense that was burned last night to ward off evil dreams and to please the gods. Woven into this is the heady, almost narcotic, perfume of the blue lotus blossoms that float in a wide, shallow bowl of water on a small table, their petals still closed in the morning dimness. And beneath it all is the warm, rich, and slightly bitter scent of myrrh, an ancient and holy fragrance. The light is dim, soft, and almost underwater in its quality. The high, narrow windows are covered with thin, white linen curtains that filter the harsh glare of the morning sun into a gentle, diffused glow. The walls of the chamber are not bare stone or mud brick. They are a seamless, vibrant tapestry of painted frescoes. You see scenes from the world of the gods. Isis spreading her great protective wings. Hathor, the goddess of beauty and love, emerging from the papyrus reeds. The colors are brilliant, the figures graceful and serene. The furniture is sparse, but each piece is a masterpiece of craftsmanship. A low, elegant bed, its frame made of dark, polished ebony and inlaid with shimmering patterns of ivory and gold. A few gracefully carved chairs and small tables. The floor is of polished alabaster, cool and impossibly smooth under your bare feet. This is a room designed not just for sleep, but for divine rest. It is a sanctuary, a man-made paradise, a quiet and holy space where the living goddess can retreat from the profane world. And there, in the center of the great bed, you see her, the great royal wife, the most powerful woman in the two lands of Egypt, is asleep. She is a small, still form, under a sheet of the finest, almost transparent, royal linen. In this state, she is not the intimidating, divine figure the world sees. She is a woman. Her breathing is a soft, rhythmic, and deeply human sound in the quiet of the room. You and the two other handmaidens who have entered with you move with a silence born of years of practice. You are ghosts in this sacred space. You do not speak. You do not make a sound. You take your designated places, standing silently, and you wait. Your entire existence in this moment is one of patient, reverent waiting. You watch her face in the dim light. You see the faint, human lines of weariness around her eyes. You see the utter vulnerability of sleep. You are one of only a handful of people in the entire world who are permitted to witness this. You are a guardian of her mortality, a keeper of the secret that this divine being is, in these quiet hours, as fragile and as human as you are. The intimacy of this moment is a thing of immense power and of immense, terrifying responsibility. A senior maid, the mistress of the chamber, gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. It is time. You move to the edge of the bed, and, with a touch as light as a feather, you gently place your hand on the queen's shoulder. Her eyes open. It is not a sudden, startled awakening. It is a slow, graceful, and utterly regal return to consciousness. Her dark, kohl-rimmed eyes, for she never fully removes the paint, open, and for a moment they are simply the eyes of a woman waking from a dream. Then, you see the awareness, the authority, the divinity flood back into them. She is no longer just a woman. She is the queen. She sits up, the linen sheet falling away from her shoulders. Her gaze sweeps over you and the other maids. It is not an unkind gaze, but it is one of deep, ancient, and absolute authority. You immediately perform a deep, reverent bow, your forehead almost touching the cool floor. You remain there, a silent servant awaiting her first command of the day. You do not speak. You wait. The first words of the morning belong to the queen. The day has come, she says, her voice a low, clear, and musical sound. The goddess awaits her festival. You rise, and the first ritual of the day begins. You take a beautiful sculpted alabaster goblet from a nearby table. You fill it with cool, fresh water from a sealed earthenware jug, and you present it to her. She drinks, a slow and deliberate sip to cleanse her mouth from the spirits of the night. Then you must announce the day's great purpose, to bring the world into her chamber. Your voice is a soft, formal, and practiced chant. Great royal wife, may you live, prosper, and be in health, you begin, using the ancient formal greeting. The sun god Ra has risen from the eastern horizon and has vanquished the serpent of the night. The priests at the great temple of Karnak are making their morning offerings, and the people of Thebes await your presence at the great festival of your mother Hathor. She listens, her expression unreadable. She has heard these words every morning of her adult life. She gives a small nod. The day is acknowledged. The routine may begin. The quiet, human moments of the night are over. The long, complex, and deeply strange process of transforming this mortal woman back into the living goddess she must be for the world has now officially begun. The queen is awake. She has acknowledged the day and its great purpose. You and the other handmaidens stand ready, the bowls, the linens, and the perfumed oils all prepared for the long and intricate process of her physical toilet. But you do not move. You wait. For you know that the first and most important cleansing of the day is not one of flesh, but one of spirit. The senior handmaiden gives a silent, almost invisible signal to the guards stationed outside the chamber doors. A moment later, the great cedar doors swing open again, and a new figure enters. He is the lector priest, He is a man who walks in an aura of immense, ancient, and quiet power. He is tall and slender, and his head, like that of all holy men, is shaved to a gleaming, hairless perfection. He wears the simple, immaculately white linen kilt and tunic of the priesthood, but draped over his shoulders is the symbol of his high and specific rank, the skin of a leopard, its spotted pattern a sign of his mastery over the chaotic forces of the natural world. In his hands, he carries a single, fresh papyrus scroll, its ends bound with a strip of clean linen. He does not look at you or any of the other women. His entire being is focused on the queen, who sits silently on the edge of her great bed, a receptive vessel for the magic that is to come. The priest approaches, kneels before her, and performs a deep and reverent bow, touching his forehead to the cool alabaster floor. Then he rises, takes his position a respectful distance from her, and unrolls his scroll. This is a ritual as old as the kingdom itself. You understand its profound importance. The night, the world of dreams, is a dangerous and chaotic time. It is the time of Isfet, of chaos, a time when the great serpent Apep tries to swallow the sun god Ra in the underworld. It is a time when malevolent spirits, the ghosts of the unhonored dead, can wander from the Duat and afflict the souls of the living. The Queen, whose body and spirit are the living embodiment of Ma'at, of divine order, of truth, of cosmic balance, is especially vulnerable during this nightly journey through chaos. Upon waking, she must be spiritually and magically cleansed of any lingering taint of the night's disorder. Before her body can be washed, her Ka, her very soul, must be purified. This is the sacred and vital work of the lector priest. He raises the papyrus scroll and begins to chant. His voice is unlike any other you have ever heard. It is a deep, resonant, and hypnotic drone, a sound that seems to come not from his own chest, but from the very stones of the temple. The words are in the ancient, holy language of the gods, a language that is already old in your own time. They are words of immense power, spells of protection and purification, recited from the sacred books kept in the house of life. You stand perfectly still, a silent and reverent witness to this act of high magic. You do not understand all the ancient words, but you understand their purpose. He is chanting a spell of protection against the serpents and scorpions of the underworld, naming each one, and by naming them, gaining power over them. He is performing a ritual banishing of the ghosts of the night, commanding them to return to their own realm to cease their troubling of the living. Then the chant shifts. He is no longer speaking words of defense, but words of affirmation. He begins to recite the queen's divine lineage and her sacred titles. He calls her the daughter of Ra, the sister of the moon, the earthly incarnation of the goddess Isis. He is not just flattering her. He is magically reinforcing her divine identity, re-establishing her place in the cosmic order after the chaos of the night. He is reminding her, and any lurking spirits, of who she is. As he chants, he performs small symbolic actions. He takes a small alabaster vial from his belt and anoints the queen's forehead with a single glistening drop of sacred lotus oil, sealing her mind against evil thoughts. He makes slow, deliberate gestures in the air around her, his hands drawing invisible hieroglyphs of protection and life. You believe in this with every fiber of your being. You are not watching a man read from a scroll. You are witnessing the very fabric of reality being reordered. You can feel the atmosphere in the chamber changing. The last lingering shadows of the night, the chaotic ghosts of the dream world, being actively and powerfully driven from the room by the force of these ancient, holy words. The air feels cleaner, lighter, safer. Finally, the chant reaches its conclusion. The lector priest's voice, which had filled the room with its hypnotic power, falls silent. He stands for a moment in the profound quiet, then carefully re-rolls his sacred papyrus and ties it with its linen strip. He performs another deep, reverent bow to the queen, who has sat, impassive and motionless, through the entire ritual. And then, his work done, he turns and glides silently from the room. The chamber is now spiritually pure. The chaos of the night has been vanquished. The queen's soul has been cleansed and fortified. The divine vessel is now safe from all unseen evils. And only now, after this great, magical, and absolutely essential work is complete, can your own, more humble and more worldly work begin. The time has come to wash the queen's flesh. The lector priest has gone, his hypnotic chant a fading echo in the now sanctified air of the chamber. The invisible demons of the night have been banished, the queen's soul ritually sealed and protected. The great, magical work is complete. Now, the lesser, though no less important, work of the flesh may begin. The first act of physical purification always begins with the mouth. In the philosophy of your people, the mouth is the great gateway. It is the portal through which the life-giving breath, the ankh, enters and leaves the body. It is the instrument through which the divine words of a monarch are spoken. It must be made pure before any other part of the body is tended to. You and the other handmaidens move with a new, quiet purpose. The atmosphere of magical reverence has been replaced by one of meticulous, practical procedure. Isabel, one of the junior maids, steps forward carrying a tray. Upon it is a set of beautiful, highly polished instruments, not of pottery, but of bronze that gleams like soft gold in the dim light of the chamber. There is a wide, shallow basin, a tall, elegant ewer, and a small, lidded pot. You are the one chosen for this delicate and intimate task. You take the ewer and pour its contents into a silver cup. It is not plain water. It is a specially prepared mouth rinse. The primary ingredient is natron, the divine salt of the earth, the same substance used by the embalmers to preserve the bodies of the dead for eternity. You know this, and the knowledge lends a grim, mummifying solemnity to this daily ritual. The crystalline natron has been dissolved in water, creating a harsh, alkaline, and intensely salty solution. It is believed to be the most powerful agent of purification, capable of killing the invisible worms that gnaw at the teeth, and of neutralizing the foul odors of the night. You present the silver cup to the queen. She takes it, her expression impassive, and pours a small amount of the salty liquid into her mouth. She does not swallow. She rinses vigorously, the sound sharp in the quiet room. You quickly hold the bronze basin before her, and she spits the liquid out. The process is repeated twice more, a ritual cleansing of the inner sanctum. Now comes your part. You take a clean, fine strip of new linen and wrap it tightly and smoothly around your right forefinger, creating a soft but effective tool. You then open the small lidded pot. Inside is the royal tooth powder. It is a fine, slightly gritty, pale powder, and it gives off a sharp, clean, and pleasant fragrance. It is a mixture of finely crushed rock salt for abrasion, dried and powdered mint leaves for freshness, and the ground, dried petals of the iris flower, a substance prized for its beautiful, violet-like perfume. You dip your linen-wrapped finger into the powder, coating it in a layer of the fragrant, salty grit. You then approach the queen, who sits waiting, her expression patient and still. This is a moment of the most profound intimacy and trust. You are about to place your own hand inside the mouth of a living goddess. Your movements must be perfect, gentle yet firm, respectful yet efficient. She opens her mouth slightly. You lean in, your own face just inches from hers. And you begin the work. You gently, methodically rub the powder against every surface of her royal teeth. You work from the back to the front, polishing the broad surfaces of the molars. cleaning the sharp edges of the incisors. The sensation you know from your own cruder version of this practice is a strange one. The harsh, abrasive Brit of the salt and the soft, yielding linen against the hard enamel of the teeth. Your goal is not just to remove the traces of last night's meal. It is a multifaceted task. The salt is to purify and whiten. The mint is to combat the odors of the night. And the iris powder is to leave a lingering divine perfume upon her breath. The breath of a god, you have been taught, must be as sweet as the flowers of the field. A foul breath is a sign of internal corruption, of a spirit that is not in harmony with Ma'at, with divine order. Your work in this moment is to ensure that the queen's breath is a fragrant instrument of that divine order. When you are finished, she rinses her mouth one final time, this time with clean, cool water, to wash away the last of the salty grit. She runs her tongue over her teeth, a small assessing gesture, and gives a slight, satisfied nod. The ritual is complete. You step back, bowing your head, your part in this intimate ceremony finished. The bronze basin and the pots are discreetly cleared away by Isabel. The first and most important gateway to the queen's body has now been purified. Her mouth is clean. Her breath is sweet. She is ready to speak the words of power, to issue the commands that will govern the kingdom for the day. And with her soul already cleansed by the lector priest, and her mouth now physically pure, the great work of preparing the rest of the divine vessel can now proceed. The gateway of the queen's mouth has been purified. Her breath is now a sweet and holy vessel, fit for the words of a goddess. But the rest of her mortal body, which has rested for a long night, which has sweated in the warm, still air of the sealed bedchamber, must now also be cleansed. The memory of the chaotic dream world must be washed from her very skin. You and the other handmaidens move with a quiet, practiced, and almost invisible efficiency. The performance of a royal cleansing is a complex ballet, and each of you knows your part. 2 junior maids hurry from the chamber and return moments later, their movements strong and steady, carrying heavy, wide-mouthed basins of pottery. One contains cool water drawn fresh from the well. The other contains water that has been warmed over a brazier in the antechamber, a rare and precious luxury that speaks of the importance of this day. Another maid brings forward a large, shallow bowl containing the primary agent of all Egyptian cleaning, natron. It is a heap of the same fine, white, crystalline salt you used for the queen's mouthwash, its texture like the dry, clean sand of the high desert. A low, wooden stool is placed in the center of the room, upon a large, thick linen mat designed to protect the fine floor from the inevitable splashes. The queen rises from her bed. With your help and the help of the senior maid, she shrugs off the linen chemise she slept in. For a moment, she stands naked in the dim, warm light of her chamber. It is a sight of profound and secret intimacy, a sight that is a privilege and a burden to behold. Your eyes are downcast, your expression a mask of professional deference. You are not seeing a naked woman. You are seeing the divine vessel of the queen's spirit in its purest form. She seats herself on the low stool. The great work of the body wash begins. This is not a bath. A full immersion in the tub is a long, elaborate, and infrequent ritual. The daily cleansing is a more practical, more focused, and more scientific affair. You take a handful of the dry natron powder, and in a small bowl, you mix it with a splash of the warm water, creating a thick, gritty, and slightly abrasive white paste. You are the chief officiant in this ritual. You take a clean, folded linen cloth and scoop up a generous amount of the natron paste. You then approach the queen and begin to scrub. Your work is methodical, systematic, and vigorous. You start with her arms. You scrub her skin with the natron-coated cloth, your movements firm and circular. The natron is a powerful cleanser. It is not a gentle, foaming soap. It is a harsh, alkaline salt, a potent degreaser that strips away the perfumed oils from the day before, the sweat of the night, and the fine layer of dead skin. The feeling, you know, is not a pleasant one. It is a rough, scouring exfoliation. As you finish scrubbing one section, a second maid immediately follows behind you. She uses a different cloth, dipped in the basin of warm, clean water, to rinse away the gritty natron paste and the loosened grime. Her movements are just as precise as yours, and following her is a third maid, with a soft, dry linen towel, who gently pats the freshly cleaned and rinsed skin dry. And finally, a fourth maid might follow, with a whisper-light dusting of a simple, unscented powder to ensure the skin is perfectly dry. You are a 4-woman production line, a team of artisans, and the queen's body is your canvas. You move with a silent, practiced coordination, a testament to years of working together in this intimate space. You move from her arms to her shoulders, then to her back, her chest, her stomach. Every inch of the royal person is subjected to this same 4-part process: the harsh, purifying scrub of the natron, the warm rinse, the gentle drying, and the final, soft dusting of powder. You are closer to your queen now than any other person in her kingdom. You are more intimate with her than her own husband, the pharaoh. He knows her as a queen, as a political partner, as the mother of his children. But you know the map of her body. You know the small, faded scar on her left shoulder, a relic of a childhood fall. You know the one dark mole on her back that must be carefully covered by the painter's cosmetics. You know the way the skin on her stomach is soft and lined from the bearing of her children. You are the keeper of her physical truths, the guardian of the mortal realities that lie hidden beneath the magnificent public illusion of her divinity. This knowledge is a form of power, a bond of profound intimacy, and it is also a cage. These secrets must be kept, silently and perfectly, for the rest of your life. A single careless word about what you have seen in this chamber would be an act of treason, and your death would be a slow and painful one. When the cleansing of her torso is complete, you move to her legs and her feet. The final act is to wash the royal feet, a gesture of profound humility and service. You yourself take the basin, you kneel on the floor before your queen, and you perform the final purifying scrub. The ritual is finished. The basins of now dirty water and the used grimy cloths are discreetly and silently removed from the chamber by the junior maids. The queen rises from the stool. Her body is now clean, in the ancient and powerful Egyptian sense of the word. Her skin is scrubbed. It is raw. It is free of all oils and perfumes and grime. It is glowing with a pink, healthy flush from the vigorous rubbing. She is a pure, clean, and unadorned vessel. She is a blank slate of pure humanity. And now, upon this perfectly prepared and purified canvas, the long, complex, and beautiful process of constructing the goddess can begin. The queen stands on the clean linen mat in the center of her chamber, her body now scoured and purified by the harsh, clean power of the natron. Her skin, free from the sweat of the night and the oils of her own body, is a blank, pure, and vulnerable canvas. But it is also dry. The same alkaline salt that has so effectively cleansed her has also stripped her of all moisture, leaving her skin tight and thirsty. In the dry, relentless air of the Egyptian climate, to leave the skin in such a state would be to invite it to crack and wither. The process of purification is over. Now, the process of sanctification and protection must begin. This next stage is a fundamental pillar of Egyptian life, a ritual as important as prayer itself. It is the anointing with oil. In your world, oil is not just a cosmetic luxury. It is a necessity, a medicine, and a marker of civilization itself. To be oiled and perfumed is to be healthy, wealthy, civilized, and pleasing to the gods. An unoiled body is the sign of a mourner, a laborer, or a desert barbarian. A queen's body must be a radiant, glistening testament to her divinity. And oil is the source of that divine sheen. You approach her, not with a bowl of water, but with a different vessel. It is a magnificent jar, carved from a single piece of translucent alabaster, its surface cool and impossibly smooth to the touch. The jar itself is a treasure, but the substance it contains is a treasure of a different order. You remove the heavy fitted stone stopper, and the air in the chamber is immediately transformed. A new scent, far richer and more profound than the simple flowers in the bowl, fills the room. It is the sacred perfume of the gods, a complex and intoxicating aroma that speaks of ancient rituals and distant magical lands. The base of the liquid is a fine, clear oil, pressed from the nuts of the moringa tree, an oil prized for its lightness and its ability to absorb the fragrances of other plants. But it is the fragrances infused within it that make it worthy of a queen. For weeks, this oil has been steeped with the most sacred and expensive resins in the world. The primary note is myrrh, a bitter, aromatic, and deeply holy resin brought by long camel caravans from the distant desert kingdoms of Arabia. Woven into it is the clean, sharp, and equally sacred scent of frankincense. These are not the light, floral scents of the living world. These are the deep, powerful, and eternal scents of the temples, of the mummification workshops, of the world of the gods themselves. You pour a small amount of the thick, fragrant oil into the palm of your hand. The liquid is cool at first, then quickly warms to the temperature of your skin. This is your most intimate and reverent task. You are the queen's chief anointer. You begin with her feet, a gesture of profound humility and respect. You gently massage the rich, fragrant oil into the soles of her feet, into her ankles, up her legs. Her skin, which was dry and tight from the natron wash, now drinks in the oil with a thirsty gratitude. You work with slow, practiced, circular motions. You are not just applying an oil. You are performing a ritual anointing, a process that is both a beauty treatment and a religious rite. As you work your way up her body, her legs, her stomach, her back, you are not just moisturizing her skin. You are creating a second invisible layer of armor. This sheath of fragrant oil will protect her skin from the dry, scorching desert wind and the relentless glare of the sun. It is a practical, medicinal barrier against the harshness of the Egyptian world. But it is more than that. It is an olfactory declaration of her status. The powerful, divine scent of myrrh and frankincense that now radiates from her body is a scent that no common person could ever afford. It is the smell of immense wealth, of access to the farthest corners of the known world. It is the smell of power. When she enters the temple today, the gods will recognize her by this scent, the same scent that is used to honor their own statues. You reach her shoulders and her arms, your hands moving with a practiced, confident grace. You are a skilled practitioner of this art. You know the exact amount of oil to use, enough to create a divine, healthy sheen, but not so much as to leave her looking like a common wrestler. You work the oil into every part of her until her entire body glistens with a soft, radiant glow in the dim light of the chamber. She is a living statue of polished, fragrant gold. By modern standards, she would be considered greasy, her skin an oily slick. But in your world, this is the very picture of health, of beauty, of divinity. She is no longer a simple, mortal body of dry, pale flesh. She has been transformed, sealed in a holy and fragrant sheen. The anointing is complete. You step back, your own hands now slick with the precious sacred oil. The queen rises from the stool. She is a radiant, glistening, and fragrant figure, her skin glowing with a soft, divine light. The process of stripping away her mortal self is over. The empty, purified vessel is now sealed and ready. The long, complex, and sometimes painful process of decorating that vessel, of transforming her into the public icon, can now begin. The queen stands in her chamber, a glistening, fragrant, and divine figure. Her skin, which was scoured and purified by the natron, has now been soothed and sanctified by the sacred oils. She's a radiant statue of polished gold, protected from the harshness of the desert world. Her very presence a cloud of holy perfume. The vessel has been cleansed and sealed, but it is not yet perfect. For in the refined and deeply religious aesthetic of your world, the ideal form, the form of the gods themselves, is one of perfect, unbroken smoothness. Body hair to you is not a natural feature. It is a sign of the untamed, the chaotic, the animalistic. It is a vestige of the wild world that lies beyond the ordered civilization of the Nile. It is impure. Priests and priestesses shave their entire bodies, from the crowns of their heads to the soles of their feet, as a necessary act of ritual purity before they can enter a temple. And the queen, who is more than a priestess, who is a living goddess, must be the purest of them all. Her skin must be as smooth and as flawless as a polished alabaster statue. And so, the next and most painful stage of her physical purification must begin. You are a master of this particular art, a skill that is both highly valued and deeply feared. You command one of the junior maids to bring forward a small bronze brazier of glowing, smokeless charcoal. Upon it rests a small, deep pottery bowl. Inside is a thick, golden and translucent substance, a mixture of pure honey and the expensive, crystalline sugar that comes in loaves from the distant lands of the Indus. You take a small wooden stick and stir the mixture as it warms over the coals. It becomes soft, pliable, and incredibly sticky, its sweet, warm scent filling the air. This is your tool. It is a simple concoction, but in the hands of an expert, it is an instrument of profound and painful transformation. The queen lies down upon a low, cushioned couch, her body still gleaming from the perfumed oils. Her face is an impassive mask. She is preparing herself for the ordeal that is to come. You approach, carrying the small bowl of warm, sticky paste. You kneel beside the couch. Your work begins on her legs. You scoop up a small, warm ball of the honey and sugar paste with your fingers. It is tacky and pliable. With a practiced and efficient motion, you spread a thin, even layer of the paste onto a section of her skin, smoothing it against the direction of the fine, downy hairs. Then, you take a strip of the finest, strongest linen, which has been prepared for this purpose. You press the strip firmly onto the sticky paste, ensuring it adheres perfectly. This is the moment. There can be no hesitation. To be slow is to be cruel. Your art requires a swift, confident, and almost violent precision. You take a firm hold of the end of the linen strip, and you rip. The sound is a short, sharp rip, like the tarring of strong cloth. The queen lets out a sharp, involuntary hiss of breath through her teeth, her body tensing, but she does not cry out. She is a queen, and she endures. You look at the linen strip in your hand. Adhering to the golden, sugary paste is a fine, downy frost of her body hair, ricked cleanly from the root. You look at her skin. Where the strip was, whose skin is now a patch of angry, pinkish red, and it is perfectly, completely, and unnaturally smooth. You are a strange kind of artist. Your work is a masterpiece of pain. You are the skilled torturer in the service of a divine ideal. You take another scoop of the paste, and you repeat the process, Spread, press, rip. Again and again, you work your way up her legs, strip by painstaking strip. It is a slow, methodical, and agonizing process. Your mind is focused entirely on the craft. Your movements must be swift, your touch sure. You are trying to achieve a perfect result while inflicting the minimum necessary amount of pain. You are not just a servant, you are a technician of purity. You understand the necessity of this pain. It is a sacrifice. Each sharp, stinging rip of the cloth is an act of purification, a stripping away of the last vestiges of her mortal animal nature. You are transforming her from a human woman into a divine being, one flawless, hairless patch of skin at a time. It is a pain that makes her worthy of appearing before the gods. When her legs are finished, you move to her arms and then to the sensitive skin of her underarms. The queen remains silent, her face a rigid mask of endurance. But you can see the fine sheen of sweat on her upper lip. You can see the way her hands are clenched into tight fists at her sides. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, the long and painful ordeal is complete. You have worked your way over her entire body. The last, stubborn reminders of her animal self have been stripped away. Her skin is now a uniform landscape of tender, red, and slightly swollen purity. You take a different substance now, a cool, soothing lotion made from aloe and water, and you gently apply it to her raw, tender skin, calming the fiery sting of the waxing. The queen lets out a long, slow breath, her body finally relaxing as the pain begins to subside. You step back and look upon your finished work. The queen's body is now a single, unbroken, and perfect surface. She is as smooth as the polished alabaster of the temple columns. She is a blank, perfect human sculpture. The painful and necessary purification of her flesh is at last truly complete. She is now ready for the final stages of her transformation, the paint, the wig, and the jewels that will turn this pure human form into a true and terrifying goddess. Your queen stands before you, her body a single, unbroken, and perfectly smooth surface of glistening, perfumed skin. The long and painful ritual of the waxing is complete. The last vestiges of her mortal animal nature have been systematically stripped away. She is a blank, flawless human sculpture, a vessel of pure potential ready to be adorned. And the next, and perhaps most important, element of her transformation from a woman into a goddess is the construction of her hair. In the hot, unforgiving climate of Egypt, you understand a fundamental truth that would seem strange to the people of the cold northern lands. Long, natural hair is not a mark of beauty. It is a burden. It is a heavy, hot, and unclean thing, a natural haven for the lice and fleas that are constant plague upon all classes of society. To be truly clean, truly pure, and truly civilized is to be free of it. And so, your queen, the pinnacle of purity and civilization, keeps her own hair, not long and flowing, but shorn close to her scalp like a young boy's. Your first task in the ritual of the hair is to perfect this foundation. You take a small sharpened bronze razor, its edge honed to a terrifying sharpness. With a hand that must be absolutely perfectly steady, you carefully shave away the fine, dark stubble that has grown on her scalp since yesterday, leaving the skin of her head as smooth, as perfect, and as hairless as the rest of her body. It is an act of supreme intimacy and trust. Over her bare scalp, you place a small, tight-fitting cap of the finest, coolest linen. This will protect her skin from irritation and provide a secure, stable foundation for the magnificent edifice that is to come. For in your world, a woman's hair is not something that grows. It is something that is built, and a queen's hair is not a feature. It is her true and proper crown. You turn to the great carved cedar chest that stands in the corner of the chamber. This chest does not hold gowns or jewels. It holds the queen's collection of ceremonial wigs. You open it, and a faint, complex scent of perfume, beeswax, and old, clean hair fills the air. Inside, resting on a series of carved wooden mannequin heads, are the wigs, each one a different style for a different occasion. Today, for the great festival of Hathor, you must bring out the most magnificent one of all. With the help of another handmaiden, you lift it from the chest. It is an object of incredible weight and breathtaking craftsmanship. It is not a light, modern accessory. It is a heavy, dense, and sculptural object, a piece of ceremonial armor for the head. Its foundation is a cap of finely woven netting and fiber, designed to fit the queen's head perfectly. Into this foundation, thousands and thousands of strands of real, black, human hair have been meticulously knotted by a master wigmaker. The hair was acquired at great expense, perhaps from the tributes of a conquered Nubian tribe, or bought for a high price from the poor women of the city. The style is not a soft, natural one. It is a rigid, formal, and deeply symbolic architectural creation. It is the tripartite wig, the style reserved for goddesses and queens. The immense volume of hair has been painstakingly plaited into hundreds of tiny, impossibly neat and uniform braids. These braids are then arranged into 3 distinct, heavy sections, 2 thick rectangular masses that are designed to fall forward over the shoulders, and a third, even larger and longer mass that will cover her back. And it is not just hair, it is a treasure. Woven into the intricate pattern of the braids are dozens of small beads of deep blue lapis lazuli and rich red carnelian. The ends of many of the braids are encased in small hollow tubes of pure, polished gold, which catch the light and add to the immense weight of the piece. You and Lady Kem, the other senior maid, carry the wig to the queen. This is a 2-woman job. You each take a side. You stand behind the queen, who sits on her stool, her back perfectly straight, her head bowed slightly in anticipation. With a single, smooth, and perfectly coordinated movement, you lift the heavy wig and lower it onto her head. The weight settles onto her skull with a soft, final thud. The transformation is immediate and absolute. The vulnerable, mortal woman with the shaven head is gone. She has vanished completely. In her place sits a figure of immense, impersonal, and divine authority. The heavy, black, symmetrical mass of the wig frames her face, giving her an otherworldly, almost inhuman appearance. It is the face from the temple walls, the serene and powerful visage of an Egyptian goddess. But the wig is not yet secure. You now take up a series of long, sharp pins of bronze and ivory. With a steady hand, you drive the pins through the foundation of the wig, through the linen coif, and into the fine, almost non-existent hair beneath, anchoring the heavy crown securely to her head. The queen does not move. You know from your own, simpler wig that you wear on ceremonial occasions what she is feeling. You know the immense claustrophobic weight of the piece, a constant, heavy pressure on her head and neck. You know the way it traps the heat, making her scalp prickle and sweat even in this cool room. It is not a comfortable thing to wear. It is a burden. It is the heavy, hot, and glorious burden of her divinity. You step back and look at your work. The wig is perfectly centered, the golden tubes glittering, the curtain of black braids falling in a perfect, symmetrical line. Her head is now complete. It is the perfect, iconic image of Egyptian royalty. You have successfully hidden the mortal woman and have constructed in her place the head of a goddess. Now, you must paint her face. The great wig is in place. It sits upon the queen's head, a heavy, hot, and magnificent crown of 1,000 tiny, perfect braids, its golden ornaments glittering softly in the dim light of the chamber. Her head is now the perfect, iconic, and inhuman shape of Egyptian royalty. The vulnerable, mortal woman with the shaved scalp has been completely hidden beneath this great sculptural edifice. The frame is now complete. It is time to paint the masterpiece within it. You, as the most senior and trusted of her handmaidens, now step forward for the most delicate, most important, and most high-stakes part of her entire beautification ritual. It is the painting of the eyes. In the world of Egypt, the eyes are everything. They are not just the organs of sight. They are the windows of the soul, the primary means of communication, and the most powerful focal point of a person's identity. And for a queen, her eyes are an instrument of power, a weapon of divinity. The makeup you are about to apply is not a simple cosmetic. It is a sacred art, a medical necessity, and a magical ward all in one. You know the reasons, for you have been trained in them. The dark lines protect the eyes from the blinding, merciless glare of the sun god Ra. The minerals within the paint are believed to ward off the flies that carry the terrible eye sicknesses that can lead to blindness. But most importantly, the shape you are about to create is a holy symbol. You are not just lining her eyes, you are drawing the wedjet, the sacred eye of the falcon god Horus, upon her face. It is a hieroglyph of power, a potent amulet of protection that will guard her from the evil eye and allow her to see the world with the clarity and authority of a god. You approach the small, ornate table where the tools of your sacred art are laid out. The centerpiece is the palette. It is a beautiful object, a flat, shield-shaped piece of polished gray schist with a circular depression in the center for grinding. It is a tool that has been used by Egyptian women for 3,000 years. Beside it are the raw materials. For the eyeshadow, there is a small pile of a brilliant emerald green powder. It is malachite, a mineral brought by donkey caravan from the distant mines of the Sinai Peninsula, painstakingly ground into a fine, silky dust. Green is the color of life, of rebirth, of vegetation, and of the goddess Hathor, to whom this day's festival is dedicated. For the eyeliner, the kohl, there is a different substance. It is a small pile of a heavy, dark gray and slightly glittering powder. It is galena, a lead sulfide, a heavy and toxic mineral that is mined in the eastern desert. It is the source of the iconic, dark, and dramatic Egyptian eye. Your first task is to prepare the paints. You take a pinch of the brilliant green malachite powder and place it in the depression on the slate palette. You add a single drop of clean castor oil from a small vial, and using a smooth rounded pebble, you begin to grind the mineral and the oil together. You work with a practiced, circular motion, grinding and grinding until the powder has dissolved into a smooth, thick, and vibrant green paste. Then, you take up the fine, ivory applicator stick, its end rounded and polished smooth from years of use. You dip the tip into the green paste, and you approach your queen. She closes her eyes, a gesture of absolute trust. You, a simple noblewoman, are about to paint the face of a living goddess. Your hand must be as steady as the stones of the Great Pyramids. With a light, delicate touch, you begin to apply the green paste to her eyelids. You sweep the color from the lash line all the way up to the bottom of her dark, defined eyebrow, creating a broad, smooth field of brilliant, shimmering green. The color is a vibrant and shocking statement, a declaration of her connection to the goddess of joy and life. When the eyeshadow is complete, the true test of your skill begins. You clean the palette and the grinding stone. Now, you take a pinch of the heavy, dark gray galena powder. You mix it with a fresh drop of oil, grinding it into a thick, smooth, and intensely black paste. This is the coal. You take up the applicator stick again, coating its fine tip in the black paste. You approach the queen. "Your Majesty," you whisper. She is perfectly still, her eyes closed, her face a serene white mask. You rest the side of your hand gently against her temple to steady yourself. Your own heart is a slow, heavy drum in your chest. The pressure is immense. A single tremor, a sudden sneeze from the queen, a clumsy movement, and the perfect sacred line would be ruined, a dark smudge on the flawless white of her ceruse foundation. Such a mistake would be a terrible omen, and your disgrace would be absolute. You touch the tip of the applicator to the inner corner of her eye. And with a single, slow, smooth, and perfectly confident motion, you draw the coal along the line of her upper lashes. You extend the line far beyond the outer corner of her eye, a long, elegant, and powerful stroke that tapers to a fine point. You then repeat the process on her lower lid, creating a second parallel line. The two lines, above and below her eye, do not meet. They form a stylized almond shape, a perfect, dramatic, and instantly recognizable hieroglyph. It is the Eye of Horus. You step back, your own breath held tight in your chest. The line is perfect. It is clean, sharp, and utterly symmetrical with the one you must now create on the other eye. You repeat the entire nerve-shredding process, your focus absolute. Finally, the work is done. You have drawn two perfect, powerful, and sacred eyes upon the face of your queen. You step back and bow your head. "It is done, Your Majesty." The queen opens her eyes. She takes the polished bronze mirror from a maid and holds it up. The woman who looks back at her is gone. The face in the mirror is the face of a goddess from the tomb painting, brought to life. Her eyes, framed by the vibrant green and the bold, dramatic black of the coal, are no longer the simple human eyes of a woman. They are vast, mysterious, and powerful symbols. They are the eyes of a queen who is ready to look upon her people and upon her fellow gods. With an authority that is absolute, divine, and utterly unshakable. The queen opens her eyes, and a transformation is staggering. The face that looks back from the polished bronze mirror is no longer human. It is the face of a goddess, of a being from the temple walls, her eyes vast, dramatic, and imbued with the divine, protective power of the great god Horus. The intricate, heavy, and magnificent wig frames her face in a rigid, perfect, and architectural symmetry. The construction of the divine icon is almost complete. But the image, for all its power, is still a stark and cold one. It is a composition of black and white, of darkness and light. It lacks the most important color of all. It lacks the color of life. In the aesthetic of your kingdom, a face of pure, unrelieved white is the face of a mummy, a revered ancestor, a being who has passed into the afterlife. But your queen is a living goddess. Her divinity is not the static, eternal divinity of the dead. It is the vibrant, active, and life-giving divinity of the living sun, of the fertile earth, of the flowing Nile. Her face must therefore be touched with the color that is the very symbol of life itself, red. The red of blood. The red of a healthy heart. The red of the life-giving sun at dawn. Your next task is to perform this final artistic flourish, to breathe a controlled and artificial life into the serene white mask you have created. You clean the slate palette, wiping away the last of the dark, leaden residue of the galena. You then take a different substance from a small, carved alabaster pot. It is a heavy, fine, and deeply pigmented powder. It is not a brilliant chemical scarlet, like the vermilion used in the courts of the north. It is a deep, rich, earthy, and powerful brick red. It is red ochre, a sacred clay dug from the deserts, rich in the iron that is the very color of blood. It is the same pigment that your ancestors have used for thousands of years to paint the vibrant, living figures on the walls of their tombs, a magical substance believed to carry the very essence of life into eternity. You place a small mound of this reddish-brown dust into the depression on the palette. For the cheeks, you mix it with a few drops of water, creating a thin, smooth watercolor paste. You take up not a brush, but a soft, rounded pad of linen. You dip it into the red paste, and you approach the queen. The application of the rouge is a delicate art. A common woman might rub a crude smear of the stuff onto her face, but you are a royal handmaiden, an artist of the court. Your application must be subtle, yet noticeable. You apply the color high on the queen's cheekbones, just below her great kohl-rimmed eyes. You do not create the distinct doll-like circles of the European courts. You use the soft linen pad to gently blend and buff the color onto the white foundation, creating a soft, warm, and natural-looking flush. It is a masterful illusion. It is designed to look as though the divine life force of the queen herself is so powerful that its healthy, rosy glow is shining through the pure white of her skin. It is a living blush, painted onto a dead mask. When you are satisfied with the cheeks, you turn your attention to the lips. This requires a different preparation. You take a fresh pinch of the red ochre powder and mix it not with water, but with a small amount of beeswax and thick, viscous castor oil. You work the mixture together on the palette, creating a thick, heavy, and long-lasting lip color, a primitive lipstick that is both a cosmetic and a moisturizing balm against the dry desert air. You take up your finest and smallest brush, the one with the squirrel hair tip. You dip it into the rich, red, and oily paste, and you begin to paint her lips. The fashion of your time does not demand a small demure Cupid's bow. It demands a full, strong, and well-defined mouth. A mouth that is fit to speak the commands of a god. You carefully, precisely outline the natural shape of her lips, and then you fill them in with the deep, earthy, brick red color. The color is not a shocking, flirtatious slash of scarlet. It is a statement of mature, powerful, and fertile life. As you perform this final artistic task, you are filled with a sense of completion. You are the artist, putting the final, crucial brushstrokes on your masterpiece. The eyes you painted were the windows to the soul, the seat of divine power. But the red you are now applying is the color of the heart, the symbol of life, of blood, of vitality. The two elements, the black and the red, the divine and the living, come together to create a perfect, harmonious, and breathtaking whole. You step back. The work is done. The queen takes the polished bronze mirror and holds it up. The face that now looks back at her is complete. It is a perfect, vibrant, and powerful work of art. The stark white of her skin is now warmed by the healthy, lifelike flush on her cheeks. Her mouth is a strong, confident, and beautifully defined statement of color. And her great, kohl-rimmed eyes, now framed by the warmth of the rouge, seem even larger, darker, and more mysterious than before. The serene, almost ghostly statue of a few minutes ago has been transformed. She is now a living goddess, her face a perfect, harmonious, and utterly convincing illusion of divine health and timeless beauty. The artistic portion of your morning's work is over, but the practical, and perhaps even more bizarre, rituals of her preparation are not yet finished. The face of the goddess is complete. You step back from your work, a quiet and profound sense of artistic satisfaction washing over you. The queen in her mirror beholds a vision of serene, vibrant, and eternal beauty. The meticulous construction of her divine face, the scouring, the poisoning, the plucking, the painting, is a success. But the war against the mortal body and its frailties is not yet won. there is one final, intimate, and deeply practical battle to be fought. It is the battle against the heat. You live in Egypt, the gift of the Nile, a black, fertile ribbon of life, in a world of red, sun-scorched death. The sun god Ra is the most powerful of all deities, and his power is a relentless, oppressive, and ever-present reality. The heat is a constant, a living entity that beats down upon the land, upon the people, and even upon the divine body of the queen herself. And with the heat comes the inevitable and deeply human reality of sweat. In your world, sweat is not just a physical discomfort. It is a sign of the body's inner humors becoming agitated, a form of impurity, and the odor that it produces is a foul and vulgar thing, a mark of the common laborer, of the peasant toiling in the fields. A goddess, a queen, must not be seen to sweat, and she must, under no circumstances, smell of it. The linen chemise she wears is the first line of defense, a magical fabric believed to wick away the body's impurities. The fragrant oils that now coat her skin are the second, a glistening, perfumed shield. But for a long and hot day, for a great public festival under the full, blazing glare of the sun, a third, more targeted and more potent defense is required. You turn to a small, unassuming-looking pot on the preparation table. This is the final and most secret weapon in your cosmetic arsenal. It does not contain a beautiful, vibrant color or a precious liquid perfume. It contains a thick, dark and waxy-looking paste. This is the Queen's deodorant. Its creation is a small, specialized art form, a recipe known only to the senior ladies of the bedchamber. You have prepared it yourself this morning. The base is a simple one, pure, clean beeswax, melted down over a low flame. Into this, you have mixed a large quantity of finely ground, dried carob. The carob is a humble ingredient, but it is porous and absorbent, and it has its own faint, sweet, and pleasant scent. But the true power of the concoction comes from the resins. You have taken small, tear-like pebbles of pure, crystalline frankincense and the darker, more fragrant resin of myrrh, and you have ground them in a stone mortar into a fine, aromatic powder. To this, you have added a pinch of cinnamon bark. You have blended this potent, sacred, and incredibly fragrant dust into the warm beeswax and carob paste, stirring and stirring until it is a single, thick, and malleable substance. You then rolled the paste into several small, neat pellets, each one about the size of a large date stone, and allowed them to cool and harden. This is the height of ancient Egyptian science in the war against body odor. You take one of these small, hard, dark, and intensely fragrant pellets. You approach the queen, who has been standing patiently by the fire, allowing the oils to soak into her skin. "Your Majesty," you say softly. She understands. She lifts one of her perfectly oiled and smoothed arms into the air. You take the deodorant pellet. It feels waxy and slightly rough in your hand, and you press it, firmly but gently, into the hollow of her armpit. The warmth of her body begins to soften the beeswax of the pellet, and it adheres to her skin. You repeat the process on the other side. The ritual is complete. It is a strange, intimate, and, to a modern mind, deeply bizarre act. But you understand the elegant and practical genius of it. You have not tried to stop the sweat. That would be an impossible and perhaps even an impious act, a damming of the body's natural rivers. Instead, you have placed a tiny, fragrant engine in the very place where the heat is most intense. As the day wears on, as the queen stands for hours in the hot sun of the temple courtyard, her own body heat will slowly, gradually melt the waxy pellet. And as it melts, it will release the powerful, sacred, and beautiful perfume of the frankincense and myrrh. It is a heat-activated, time-release deodorant. It is a magical device that is designed to take the very source of an unpleasant human smell, heat and sweat, and transform it into a cloud of divine fragrance. It does not fight the body, it co-opts it. You step back, your work done. The Queen's body is now a fortress of fragrance, prepared for any assault. The clean linen of her chemise will absorb the moisture from within. The perfumed oil on her skin provides a general, radiant scent. And these two small secret pellets stand as the final, powerful guardians, ready to transform the very evidence of her humanity into a proof of her divinity. Every aspect of her physical self has now been purified, perfected, and protected. She is no longer a body that can produce the foul odors of a mortal. She is a divine vessel, a living censer from which only the most holy and beautiful of perfumes can emanate. The long, intimate, and often strange process of preparing her body is finally complete. Now, you must dress this perfect, pure, and fragrant vessel in the final, magnificent layers of her public power. The long, intimate, and often strange rituals of the body are complete. The Queen is now a perfect vessel. Her skin has been scoured, oiled, and smoothed into a flawless, hairless, and fragrant surface. Her face is a magnificent, painted, and divinely protected mask. Her head is crowned with the heavy, sculptural perfection of her wig. Every part of her mortal form has been purified, perfected, and prepared. Now it is time to dress the goddess. You turn to the great cedar chest where the Queen's royal robes are kept. An attendant opens the lid, and you are met with a soft, clean scent of sun-dried linen and the herbs that are packed between the folds of the fabric. You reach in, and with the utmost care, you and another handmaiden lift out the gown that has been chosen for today's great festival. To the uninitiated eye, it might seem a simple thing. It is a long, elegant sheath of the purest, most brilliant white. But you, a woman who has spent her life in the royal court, a connoisseur of fine textiles, you know that this simple-looking garment is a masterpiece of a craft so sophisticated, it is considered a form of magic. It is a testament to the immense wealth and the unparalleled skill of your kingdom. The material is royal linen, or byssus. It is not the coarse, functional linen of your own simple sheath dress, nor the heavy, durable linen of a ship's sail. This is a fabric of an entirely different order. It is woven from the finest flax fibers by the most skilled weavers in the entire world, women whose secrets have been passed down for 1,000 years. The resulting fabric is so fine, so light, and so incredibly soft that it feels almost weightless in your hands. It is almost completely transparent, a delicate, milky web of woven light. To wear a gown of such material is a declaration of supreme status. But the true genius of the garment is in its texture. The entire surface of the gown, from its shoulders to its hem, is covered in a breathtaking, intricate, and almost impossibly perfect pattern of tiny accordion-like pleats. There are thousands of them, each one no wider than your little finger, each one perfectly straight and uniform. You know the immense, painstaking labor that this requires. The linen must be starched, folded over a grooved wooden board, pressed with immense weight, and allowed to set. To create a single gown of such perfect, permanent pleats is the work of a team of specialists for an entire month. This is not a simple dress. It is a work of art, a sculpture of fabric. The process of dressing the Queen in this delicate masterpiece is a slow and careful operation. She stands before you, her body glistening with the sacred oils, a perfect golden statue. You and the other handmaiden each take one side of the great pleated gown. You hold it open, and the queen steps into it. You gently draw the fine fabric up over her body. The feeling of the light, airy, and incredibly soft linen gliding over her freshly oiled skin is, a sensation of pure, cool, and almost unimaginable comfort after the harsh, abrasive rituals of the morning. Unlike the heavy, restrictive, cage-like garments of the northern queens, her gown is designed for the heat of Egypt. It is a garment that is meant to breathe, to move with the body, to be a second, more perfect skin. The style is one of elegant, divine simplicity. It is a long sheath that drapes over her form, clinging slightly to her oiled skin, hinting at the shape of the perfect body beneath without revealing it. You tie it at the waist with a long, colorful sash of woven silk, its fringed ends decorated with beads of gold and lapis lazuli. The simple white of the gown is a canvas, and the brightly colored sash is a single bold brushstroke upon it. You adjust the fit, ensuring every pleat hangs in a perfect vertical line from her shoulders to the floor. The gown pulls slightly at her feet, a sign of its luxurious length. She is no longer the naked, vulnerable woman of the washing ritual. She is now a figure of serene, divine, and almost minimalist elegance. The brutal, messy, and painful reality of her preparation is now completely hidden beneath this deceptively simple and beautiful surface. You, as her handmaiden, feel a surge of national and professional pride. You look at this magnificent garment, at the impossible fineness of its weave, at the perfect regularity of its pleats, and you know that nowhere else in the world, not in the land of the Hittites, not in Crete, not even among the wealthy kings of Babylon, could a textile of such breathtaking beauty and skill be produced. It is a testament to the genius of your own people. The queen is now dressed. She is a tall, slender, and elegant column of pure pleated white. The simple gown, for all its apparent minimalism, is a powerful statement of her status, her purity, and the sophisticated artistry of her kingdom. The foundation of her final public image is now in place, but a simple gown, no matter how fine, is not enough. A goddess must not only be pure, she must be magnificent. The clean white canvas is ready. Now you must adorn it with the final, heavy, and glittering layers of her immense power. The time for the jewels has come. The queen stands before you, a tall, slender, and elegant column of pure, pleated white. Her magnificent gown is a masterpiece of minimalist perfection, a testament to the skill of your kingdom's weavers. But it is a quiet statement, a festival in honor of the great goddess Hathor, an event to be witnessed by the entire court of Thebes. Requires a statement that is not quiet. It requires a declaration. It requires a roar. Now, you must adorn the pure, clean vessel with the heavy, glittering, and undeniable language of divine power. Gold. You give a silent, practiced nod to the guards standing at the great cedar doors. They understand. They open the doors, and two formidable Magi guards from the royal treasury enter the chamber. They are not the palace guards. They are the keepers of the nation's wealth, their faces grim and impassive. Between them, they carry a heavy, intricately carved chest of dark ebony, bound with straps of polished bronze. They place this chest on the floor in the center of the room with a heavy, final thud, and then retreat, their duty done. This chest contains the queen's ceremonial jewelry. It is not a collection of personal trinkets. It is a part of the royal regalia, a sacred and priceless hoard that is itself a manifestation of the wealth and power of Egypt. You, as the senior handmaiden, are the keeper of the key. You take the small bronze key from a pouch at your belt and you unlock the chest. You lift the heavy lid. Inside, Resting on beds of dark, soft linen lies a treasure so brilliant, so magnificent, that it seems to suck all the light in the room towards it. It is a hoard of pure, heavy, buttery yellow gold. You begin the final and most awesome stage of the Queen's transformation. First, and most important, is the collar. With the help of another lady, you lift it from the chest. It is not a necklace. It is a yusek, a broad collar, and it is an object of immense weight and breathtaking beauty. It is a great, semicircular piece of jewelry, a heavy, flexible collar of pure gold that is designed to cover her entire shoulders and upper chest like a piece of divine, golden armor. It is constructed of a dozen concentric rows of beads and golden hieroglyphs, all stitched onto a soft papyrus backing. You see the deep, celestial blue of thousands of tiny lapis lazuli beads brought by caravan from the distant mountains of the land of the Mitanni. You see the rich, blood red of the carnelian, mined by slaves in the harsh eastern desert. You see the cool, watery green of the turquoise from the sacred mines of the Sinai. And between these rivers of color are rows of heavy, solid gold beads, each one shaped like a lotus flower, a scarab beetle, or the sacred ankh, the symbol of life. The entire massive collar is fringed with a row of golden, teardrop-shaped pendants that will chime softly when she moves. This is not a piece of jewelry. It is the weight of a kingdom. With the utmost care, the two of you place the great, heavy collar over the Queen's head. It settles onto her shoulders, its immense weight, a sudden, shocking burden. You fasten the heavy golden clasp at the back of her neck. The simple, elegant white of her linen gown is now a mere backdrop for this magnificent, overwhelming explosion of color and length. But the adornment has only just begun. Next come the bracelets and anklets. They are not delicate chains. They are heavy, solid bands of gold, inlaid with the same pattern of lapis, carnelian, and turquoise. You clasp a pair of them around her slender wrists. You clasp another pair on her upper arms. And finally, you kneel and clasp two more around her ankles. They are beautiful, but they are also shackles. Their weight is a constant reminder of her status, and they will force her to walk with the slow, deliberate, and majestic pace of a goddess, not the hurried stride of a mortal woman. You place the heavy, dangling earrings of gold and lapis in her ears, and then the final touch to her head. You take the royal diadem. It is a simple band of gold, but from its center rears the head of the cobra, the uraeus, its golden hood flared, its eyes two tiny glittering chips of obsidian. It is the ultimate symbol of royal authority, of the Queen's power to strike down her enemies. You place it carefully on her forehead, its base nestled perfectly against the front of her magnificent heavy wig. You step back to behold your work. The transformation is absolute. The woman is gone. The simple, elegant figure in the white dress is gone. In her place stands a being of pure, overwhelming, and almost terrifying magnificence. She is a living idol, a statue of gold and precious stones, a glittering, multicolored vision of divine power. The light from the oil lamps catches on 1,000 points of polished gold, of deep blue lapis, of rich red carnelian, making her seem to shimmer and radiate her own internal, holy light. You, as the artist of this creation, are filled with a sense of profound and almost fearful awe. You have helped to build a goddess. You feel the immense, almost crushing power that she now projects. But you also know the truth. You felt the immense physical weight of the golden collar as you placed it on her shoulders. You know that her every movement is now a conscious effort against the heavy, beautiful shackles on her wrists and ankles. She is a magnificent, divine, and glittering prisoner, encased in the very wealth and power that she represents. The construction is complete. She is ready to be seen. The Queen of Egypt is a living constellation. She stands in the center of her chamber, a shimmering, glittering, and almost unbearably magnificent figure. The cool, quiet light of the room is captured and reflected by 1,000 points of polished gold, deep blue lapis, and blood-red carnelian. The weight of the kingdom's treasury is literally upon her shoulders. The meticulous construction of her divine image, a process of scouring, anointing, painting, and armoring, is almost complete. Almost. There is one final touch. It is the strangest, the most uniquely Egyptian, and, to a mind from a different time, the most disgusting element of her entire preparation. You step forward, and you are not carrying another jewel. You are not carrying another piece of fine linen. You are carrying a small, solid, and waxy-looking object. It is a cone, about the size of a small bread loaf. Its shape a miniature echo of the great pyramids that dominate the desert landscape. It is a pale, yellowish-white color, and it feels cool and slightly greasy to the touch. It is the perfume cone. This strange, almost crude-looking object is the very pinnacle of aristocratic luxury and piety in your world. It is the final and most powerful weapon in the Queen's olfactory arsenal. You have prepared it yourself. The base is pure, rendered beef tallow, a solid, clean fat, which has been clarified over a low flame. Into this fat, while it was still warm and liquid, you have mixed a vast and almost priceless quantity of the most sacred of all scents, myrrh. You have ground the dark, reddish-brown, tear-like pebbles of the myrrh resin into a fine, fragrant powder and blended it into the fat until the entire substance is a single, solid, and incredibly potent block of pure perfume. The scent that emanates from it is overwhelming. It is the deep, bitter, ancient, and holy smell of the temple, the scent used to honor the gods and to prepare the noble dead for their journey into the afterlife. It is the smell of eternity. Now, you must place this object on the Queen. You approach the magnificent, glittering figure. She stands perfectly still, a living idol. With the utmost care and a reverence reserved for the most sacred of rites, you reach up and you place the solid, waxy cone of perfumed fat directly on the very top of her magnificent, intricately braided and jewel-encrusted wig. It sits there, a strange, pale, and slightly absurd-looking crown upon the great dark edifice of her hair. The visual contrast is bizarre. The most refined and sophisticated works of the goldsmith, the beadmaker, and the weaver are now topped with what is, essentially, a lump of scented grease. But you do not see it as absurd. You see it as the final, logical, and most brilliant step in her transformation. You understand the genius of this strange device. You live in a land of relentless, unforgiving heat. A liquid perfume, no matter how strong, would be consumed by the dry air and the heat of the sun in a matter of hours. But the cone? The cone is a different technology altogether. It is a time-release perfume. It is a heat-activated engine of fragrance. You know what will happen. As the Queen stands for hours in the great sun-drenched courtyard of the Temple of Hathor, the heat of the day will begin its work. The solid, cool fat of the cone will slowly, gently, and inexorably begin to melt. And as it melts, two things will happen. First, it will release the powerful, sacred perfume of the myrrh in a continuous, fragrant cloud that will envelop the Queen for the entire day. She will move in her own personal, divine atmosphere. Second, the melting perfumed grease itself will begin to run. It will trickle down, a slow, glistening, and fragrant stream over her magnificent wig, the precious oil soaking into the thousands of braids. It will run down the sides of her face, its perfumed sheen mingling with the green malachite and the black kohl of her eye makeup. It will drip onto the great, golden expanse of her broad collar and onto the pure white of her fine pleated linen gown, leaving dark, translucent, and fragrant stains. To a person from another world, this effect would be a disaster. It would look messy, greasy, a catastrophic failure of her cosmetics. But to you and to every Egyptian who will look upon her today, this is the very sign of its success. The melting cone is a visible testament to her piety, a sign that she is so filled with divine inner heat that she can melt this sacred offering with her very presence. It is a sign of her immense wealth, that she can afford to literally anoint her own head with a fortune in solid perfume. It is the very height of beauty, of divinity, and of fashion. You step back, your work complete. The perfume cone sits in its place, a strange and potent beacon. The queen is now, finally and truly, ready. Every possible aspect of her being has been purified, perfected, adorned, and scented. She is a multi-sensory spectacle, a walking censer, a glittering idol, crowned with a slowly melting block of holy perfume. The long, secret, and deeply strange work of the morning is finished. You look upon the final, magnificent, and, to a foreigner, utterly bizarre product of your labor, and you are filled with a sense of profound professional awe. A final, bizarre, and sacred touch has been applied. The cone of perfumed fat sits upon the queen's wig, a strange and potent crown, the ultimate symbol of her wealth and piety. The long, painstaking, and often painful process of construction is complete. Every part of her mortal form has been scoured, oiled, smoothed, painted, armored, and anointed. The woman who woke in this chamber hours ago has been systematically and utterly erased. Now, it is time for the creation to look upon her own image. You give a silent signal to Isabel. Together, you move to the great cedar chest and retrieve the queen's looking-glass. It is a heavy, precious object, its handle of carved ivory, its frame of polished gold. The mirror itself is not a sheet of flawless glass, but a large, heavy disc of bronze, alloyed with other metals and polished for weeks by skilled artisans until its surface holds a reflection as deep and as mysterious as the still waters of a sacred lake. You and Isabel hold the heavy mirror aloft, positioning it to catch the soft, filtered light from the high chamber windows. It is a formal, almost ceremonial act. You are presenting the goddess with her own divine reflection. The queen, who has been standing as a still and silent statue, now turns her head with a slow, deliberate, and majestic grace. She looks into the mirror. The image that looks back at her is not a woman. It is a god. The soft, warm, coppery hue of the polished bronze works its final magic, transforming the reality of her preparation into a perfect, harmonious, and otherworldly vision. The reflection is dim, slightly distorted, and impossibly beautiful. She sees the great, kohl-rimmed eyes, which in the mirror's dark surface are not just painted, but have become vast, deep, and mysterious pools of divine and ancient power. The vibrant green of the malachite on her lids is a soft, jewel-like glow, and the bold black lines of the Eye of Horus are stark and powerful, a symbol of magical protection made manifest. She sees her skin not as a surface coated in powders and pastes, but as a luminous, golden white expanse. A flawless and serene canvas that seems to glow with its own internal, holy light. The earthy red of the ochre on her cheeks is not a cosmetic, but a soft, warm blush of eternal, divine life. Her lips are a strong, calm, and perfectly defined line of deep, sacred color. She sees the masses of gold and precious stones of her broad collar, which glitter and flash in the dim reflection, not as heavy, burdensome jewelry, but as a celestial panoply, a constellation of stars that has settled upon her shoulders. She sees the great, heavy, architectural wig, its thousands of tiny braids, a perfect and symmetrical frame for her serene face. And upon it, the strange, pale perfume cone sits, not as a lump of greasy tallow, but as a sacred, mysterious, and potent second crown, a symbol of a piety so profound it is almost beyond mortal comprehension. The woman in the mirror is not a human being. She is the perfect, serene, and eternal image from a temple wall, a being who has stepped out of a 2,000-year-old carving and into the living world. You watch the queen's face as she stares at this vision. Her expression, already a painted mask, betrays nothing. But you, who have served her for years, you can see the subtle shift. You can see the last vestiges of the private, mortal woman, the faint lines of weariness, the hint of the morning's irritability, recede and vanish completely. She is not just looking at her reflection, she is communing with it. She is absorbing it. She is becoming it. Her posture, already regal, becomes even straighter, more impossibly serene. Her gaze, which was that of a woman assessing her own appearance, now takes on the distant, calm, and all-seeing quality of the goddess in the mirror. You are witnessing the final, mystical stage of her transformation. She is consciously and deliberately embodying the icon you have just created. Her assessment is not one of vanity. It is a final, professional, and spiritual quality check. Is this image powerful enough to inspire awe in her people? Is it divine enough to please the great goddess Hathor, in whose honor this day is held? Is the vessel worthy? After a long, silent moment that seems to stretch into an eternity, she gives a single, slow, and deeply satisfied nod. It is not a nod to you or your maids. It is a nod of acceptance to the divine stranger in the mirror. The work is complete. The work is perfect. She turns away from the mirror, and the private human space of the bedchamber is suddenly filled with an almost unbearable aura of divine royal power. The woman you woke this morning is well and truly gone. In her place stands the great royal wife, the consort of the living god, a walking, breathing, and terrifyingly magnificent idol. You and the other handmaidens instinctively take a step back, your heads bowed, your work as artists and engineers now complete. You are now simply her humble, insignificant servants, a role you feel more keenly now than ever before. The great, silent, and glittering goddess looks towards the cedar doors of her chamber. The final inspection is over. The private, secret, and deeply strange work of the morning has reached its magnificent conclusion. She is ready to be seen. The queen turns from the mirror, the silent communion with her own divine image complete. She has fully and finally become the icon. She gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. It is the only signal you need. The long, secret, and intimate work of the morning is over. The great public performance of the day is about to begin. You and the other ladies of the bedchamber take your designated places, a small, elegant constellation of attendants around the great, glittering son of your monarch. You are no longer her beauticians, her dressers, her confidants. You are now her formal retinue, a living testament to her glory. Your own fine pleated linen gowns are immaculate. Your own simple kohl eyeliner is perfectly applied. Your beauty is a reflection of her own, your purpose to serve as a perfect and beautiful frame for the masterpiece at the center. At another solid signal, the great double cedar doors of the Queen's private apartments are swung open by the guards outside. The soft, dim, and heavily perfumed air of the chamber gives way to the bright, clean, and sunlit world of the main palace corridors. The procession begins. It is not a simple walk. It is a slow, solemn, and highly choreographed river of sacred power. flowing from the private heart of the palace out into its public spaces. The procession is led by two lector priests, their heads shaved and gleaming, their white linen robes a stark contrast to the leopard's skins draped over their shoulders. They do not walk, they glide, their bare feet silent on the polished alabaster floor. In their hands, they swing heavy, ornate censers of bronze, from which thick, white, and intoxicatingly fragrant clouds of frankincense and myrrh billow, sanctifying the path before the queen. They chant in a low, hypnotic, and unending murmur, their voices the sound of ancient, holy magic. And then comes the queen. She moves with a slowness that is both majestic and unnatural. Her pace is a slow, deliberate, gliding shuffle, a movement dictated by the restrictive, sheath-like nature of her gown and the heavy golden shackles of her anklets. But the effect is not one of weakness. It is one of immense, almost unbearable gravity. It is the walk of a goddess, a being for whom the frantic, hurried concerns of the mortal world do not exist. She does not walk, she floats, a serene and silent vision through the corridors of her own palace. You follow immediately behind her. Your own role is one of perfect, silent, and ornamental devotion. In your hands, you hold a great fan of white ostrich plumes, its handle of polished ebony and ivory. You do not fan her, for the air in the cool stone corridors is not hot. The fan is a symbol, a hieroglyph of your position as the Heritep, the one who is at the head, the queen's closest and most trusted attendant. You must hold it at a perfect, unwavering angle, her arms aching with the effort. Behind you walk the other ladies, and flanking the entire procession is a double line of her personal Medjay guards, formidable warriors from the southern deserts. Their dark skin, a striking contrast to their white linen kilts and the gleaming bronze of their spearheads. Their presence is a silent, intimidating declaration of the queen's power. As you move through the great, columned halls of the palace, the normal, bustling life of the court comes to an absolute halt. You see a group of scribes, their palettes and brushes in hand, who immediately drop to their knees, their faces pressed against the floor as you pass. You see a delegation of foreign emissaries who bow their heads low, their own worldly importance utterly eclipsed by this vision of divine authority. You see court officials, powerful men in their own right, who avert their gaze, for it is not permitted to look directly upon the wife of the God King unless she addresses you first. The only sounds are the low, mesmerizing chant of the priests, the soft, whispering shuffle of your own bare feet on the stone, the faint, musical clink of the golden pendants on the queen's great collar, and the heavy, holy smell of the incense that announces your coming and lingers in the air long after you have passed. You are a part of this spectacle, and you are filled with a surge of profound and almost overwhelming awe. You are no longer just a handmaiden. You are a participant in a sacred, living ritual. You are walking in the footsteps of the gods. The long, strange, and often painful rituals of the morning all make sense now. They were not just about beauty. They were about creating this feeling, this aura of a power so absolute it can stop the world in its tracks. But beneath the awe is the constant, familiar thrum of professional anxiety. Your own posture must be perfect. Your expression must be one of serene, pious devotion. You must not stumble. You must not allow the heavy fan to waver in your tired hands. You are a part of the frame, and a flaw in the frame would be a flaw in the masterpiece itself. The procession continues its slow, majestic journey through the heart of the palace. Finally, you see it ahead of you. The great pylon gate, the massive, towering stone gateway that separates the private, protected world of the royal palace from the vast, public and sacred world of the great temple complex of Karnak. From beyond the gate, you can hear a new sound, a sound that sends a shiver of nervous energy through you. It is the distant roar of a massive crowd, the sound of tens of thousands of people, the people of Thebes, who have gathered for the great festival. The queen pauses at the great gateway, a glittering, fragrant, and silent figure, framed by the colossal stone pylons. She is taking a moment, gathering her divine energy, before she presents herself to her people and her fellow gods. The long, intimate preparation is over. The grand public ceremony is about to begin. The great procession comes to a halt at the entrance to the main courtyard of the Temple of Karnak. The roar of the assembled crowd, which was a distant thunder, now becomes a deafening, overwhelming wave of sound. You step from the relative shade of the palace colonnades out into the vast, open, and sun-drenched expanse of the temple court. The heat is a physical blow. It is the pure, unfiltered, and utterly relentless power of the Egyptian sun, a force that beats down from a sky of brilliant, cloudless, and metallic blue. The heat reflects off the vast, pale flagstones of the courtyard, creating a shimmering, wavering haze in the air. The great statues of the pharaohs and the towering, magnificent obelisks that surround the court seem to radiate a heat of their own. There is no shade here. There is no escape. As the queen, your mistress, makes her grand entrance, a hush falls over the thousands of priests, nobles, and high-ranking officials who are privileged enough to be in the courtyard. They fall to their knees as one, a great rustling wave of white linen, their faces pressed to the hot stone floor. The ceremony begins. It is a long, slow, and deeply sacred affair in honor of the goddess Hathor. The high priest of Amun-Ra, his leopard skin draped over his shoulders, begins the long, hypnotic chant. Offerings are brought to the great altar, baskets of bread, jugs of beer and wine, and vast, beautiful bouquets of blue lotus flowers. The air becomes thick with the smoke from a dozen different kinds of incense, and the sweet, cloying smell of the sacrificial offerings. Your role in this great public ritual is one of perfect, silent stillness. You stand in your designated place in the queen's retinue, just behind her and to one side. The queen herself stands beside the pharaoh, a silent, glittering, and motionless partner in his divine authority. She must stand here, under the full, blazing fury of the midday sun, for hours. She is a living statue, a perfect and unchanging icon. But the heat is a relentless and powerful god in its own right, and it begins its slow, inexorable work on the strangest and most sacred element of the queen's attire. It begins with the perfume cone. You watch it, as it is part of your duty to observe the state of the queen's person. When you placed it on her wig this morning in the cool, dark chamber, it was a solid, firm, and pale, waxy thing. Now, after an hour of standing in this great stone oven of a courtyard, a change begins to occur. You see it first as a subtle shift in its appearance. The cone, which was a matte off-white, begins to take on a soft, translucent, and glistening sheen. The heat is beginning to soften it from the outside in. Then you see it. A single, tiny, glistening droplet of clear, perfumed oil appears at the very base of the cone. It hangs there for a moment, a perfect golden tear, and then it begins to slowly, languidly trickle down. This is the moment of the melting. It is the beginning of the final and most magnificent stage of her olfactory performance. The single droplet is joined by another and another. A slow, viscous, and incredibly fragrant stream of melted fat and myrrh begins to flow down the thousands of tiny, perfect braids of her magnificent wig. The effect is multisensory. First, the scent, the gentle, ambient perfume of the cone, is now supercharged by the heat. A powerful, deeply personal, and almost breathtakingly intense cloud of the holy scent of myrrh and frankincense envelops the queen. A divine aura that is a declaration of her piety and power to everyone standing near. Then there is the sight. The melted, perfumed grease is not invisible. It is a clear, glistening oil, and you watch as it traces its slow, inevitable path. It soaks into the black human hair of the wig, giving it a rich, dark, and heavy sheen. It runs down the sides of her face, a clear, greasy rivulet that streaks through the perfect white powder of her makeup. It mixes with the fine, green dust of the malachite on her eyelids and the bold, black line of the kohl, causing the colors to run and bleed slightly at the edges, creating a strange, dreamlike, and shimmering effect. A single golden droplet of the perfumed grease gathers at the point of her chin, hangs there for a moment, and then falls, landing with a soft, silent splash on the magnificent, golden expanse of her broad collar. From the collar, it continues its journey, running down onto the pristine, white, and perfectly pleated linen of her gown, leaving a dark, translucent, and fragrant stain. To a modern eye, it would be a disaster, a horrifying cosmetic failure. Her makeup is running, her hair is greasy, her priceless gown is being stained with fat. But you, a woman of Egypt, you see it for what it is. It is the pinnacle of beauty. It is the height of fashion. It is the very purpose of the cone. The melting is not a flaw. It is the function. It is a visible sign of her immense wealth. A testament to the fact that she can afford to use a fortune in solid perfume as a disposable, single-day accessory. It is a sign of her piety, a visible offering that is melting in the presence of the gods. You look at your queen. Her face remains a mask of serene, divine impassivity, but you know what she must be feeling. The intense, suffocating heat of the sun, the immense weight of her wig and her golden collar, and now the strange, sticky and cloying feeling of warm, perfumed grease running down her face and neck. You are filled with a profound awe for her endurance, for her ability to stand as a perfect, motionless statue, while her very adornments melt upon her. The long ceremony finally draws to a close. The high priest gives his final blessing. The queen, by the standards of another world, is a mess. Her face is a streaked, glistening, and greasy canvas of running makeup. Her wig is heavy and saturated with oil. Her gown is stained. But in the eyes of her people, and in the eyes of her gods, she has never been more beautiful, more pious, or more divine. She turns, a living, breathing, and slowly melting censer, and begins the slow, majestic procession back to the palace. The great festival is over. The last of the sacred chants has echoed into the vast blue Egyptian sky. The queen, having performed her divine duty with a flawless, motionless grace, has returned to the palace. The procession back from the temple is a slow, triumphant, and glistening affair. The sun has done its work. The sacred perfume cone has melted, and your queen is a walking, breathing testament to its success. She is a shimmering, fragrant, and, to the adoring eyes of her people, an utterly divine being. But as you step from the bright, chaotic, and public world of the court back into the cool, dark, and secret world of her private chambers, the performance ends. The moment the great cedar doors are closed and barred, the goddess vanishes, and the exhausted, mortal woman returns. She does not speak. She simply walks, her movements now heavy with a profound weariness, to the ceremonial stool and sits. She is a magnificent, beautiful, and utterly disgusting mess. The heat-activated engine of her perfume has worked perfectly, but the result is a scene of fragrant, greasy chaos. The once solid cone is now a misshapen, half-melted lump on top of her wig. Thick, oily, and perfumed rivulets of melted tallow and myrrh have streamed down her face, carving paths through the white and red of her makeup, creating a strange, streaked, and grotesque mask. The glistening grease has dripped from her chin onto the magnificent gold of her broad collar, and from there has run down the front of her fine, pleated linen gown, weaving great, dark, translucent stains. Her entire head, face, and chest are covered in a sticky, cloying, and fragrant film that has, in the heat of the courtyard, also trapped particles of dust and sand from the air. This is the secret, unglamorous reality behind the divine illusion, and it is your job to dismantle it. The process of deconstruction is far more difficult and far more unpleasant than the original construction. You and the other handmaidens begin the long, laborious task of cleaning the queen. First, the jewels. You unfasten the great, heavy broad collar. It is slick with perfumed grease, and the thousands of tiny beads are gummy to the touch. It will take a team of specialized servants hours to clean and polish it back to its original glory. The heavy bracelets and anklets are removed, a freeing of the queen from her golden shackles. Next comes the wig, and it's the greatest challenge. It's no longer a magnificent sculpture of hair and gold. It's a heavy, matted, and saturated mass. It's thousands of tiny braids, clogged with a thick, sticky, and now beginning to congeal pomade of fat and resin. You must carefully remove the dozens of long, sharp pins that anchor it to her head. The process is slow and difficult, as the pins are stuck fast in the greasy, matted hair. Finally, with a collective grunt of effort, you and another lady lift the heavy, foul object from the queen's head, revealing her own clean-shaven scalp beneath. The ruined gown, a priceless masterpiece of the weaver's art, is now a disposable casualty of the day's piety. It's unfastened and pulled away, its fine, pleated linen now nothing more than a stained and greasy rag, destined to be discarded. The queen now sits in her simple linen chemise, a strange and unsettling figure. Her body is clean, but her head, face, and neck are still a sticky, streaked, and grotesque mess. The final and most arduous task begins, the great cleaning. It is a process of scraping and scouring. You take a strigil, a curved bronze tool normally used by athletes to scrape oil and dirt from their skin after exercise. With this, you must begin the disgusting task of scraping the thickest layers of the congealed, greasy perfume from her scalp, her forehead, and her cheeks. When the worst of the oily paste has been removed, the washing begins anew. Basins of hot water and cloths of fresh linen are brought. You use the same harsh, abrasive natron salt from the morning, scrubbing and scrubbing at her skin to cut through the grease, to wash away the last of the running makeup, the clinging perfume, the dust of the day. It is a long, repetitive, and unglamorous process. You are the hidden engineer of this world. The people of Egypt see the magnificent, perfumed goddess, a vision of effortless perfection. They do not see this. They do not see you, the handmaiden, on your knees, scrubbing the greasy, melted remains of that perfection from the skin of a tired, mortal woman. They do not know that the creation of a goddess is a messy, dirty, and exhausting business. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, it is done. The queen is clean again, her skin scrubbed raw for the second time in a single day. She is no longer the glistening icon. She is an exhausted woman in a clean chemise, her face bare, her head bald. The divine illusion has been completely and utterly dismantled, washed and scraped away, leaving only the fragile human reality in its place. And here, in the quiet aftermath of the great ceremony, we leave her, a queen, scrubbed clean of her own divinity, resting in her chamber before the entire, strange, and disgusting cycle begins again tomorrow. The story of her hygiene is a journey into a different world of sensation and belief. Our modern ideal of hygiene, of beauty, is one of being dry, of being matte, of being free of all oil and shine. We use powders to absorb, antiperspirants to block, and harsh soaps to strip our skin of its natural state. To be greasy in our world is to be unclean. For the ancient Egyptians, the ideal was the exact opposite. They lived in a harsh, dry, and unforgiving desert climate. To be dry was to be dusty, to be cracked, to be unprotected. To be oiled, to be anointed, to be glistening and perfumed, was to be healthy, wealthy, protected, and divine. Their disgusting is our clean, and our clean would have been, to them, a sign of poverty and neglect. And now, as our story fades, it is time for our own quiet, time to appreciate the simple comfort of a clean, dry bed, time to rest in our own very different vision of purity, time to sleep.